Hey guys, Drifter here. We might be on the precipice of a new era in gaming because the European Union is looking to get rid of COD points and V-Bucks and Robux and basically every other type of in-game currency. They've actually already started this process and have sent new pricing clarity guidelines to developers to get the regulations rolling. And it's important for everyone because games will probably adhere to EU standards in non-EU regions, a lot like how the changes to loot box laws in China positively impacted American gamers. In case you didn't know, China changed the laws to where games published from their region are required to show the probabilities of winning prizes from loot boxes. This is to combat addictive gambling practices. And Chinese game companies didn't want to develop multiple systems for different regions, so now the vast majority of Chinese games that are released in the United States have exactly that, which is why games like Delta Force and Fragpunk have their loot box odds listed right there on the purchase page. So today we're going to talk about what the problem is and how the European Union plans to fix it. The problem, in a nutshell, is that video games are using digital currencies to obscure prices, and this practice has been going on for decades, but is only getting worse with time. I want to give you two quick examples, one very basic and one very extreme. The basic example of this problem is actually Call of Duty and its COD points. You can't spend real dollars, real money, to buy Call of Duty operator bundles. You can only buy them with COD points. But Call of Duty points do cost real currency, and they're sold to you on a sliding scale depending on how much you buy. So if you buy just a tiny bit of COD points, you get the worst deal, but if you go all the way to the top and get a giant $100 bundle, you get all these bonus points, thus making it mentally difficult to calculate how much a COD point is worth or how much 100 COD points is worth. Then all of the skins are priced at slightly unusual numbers so that you'll never fully spend all of your Call of Duty points and want to buy more to make use of them, and also not have the greatest grasp on how much the skin itself costs. It's just sort of difficult to mentally estimate. This is not a consumer-friendly practice by any means, but this is the industry standard right now. This one is very normal. Basically, every game company on the planet is doing this. A lot of non-game companies are doing this, but it can get a lot worse. Like, for example, the other game I play, Teamfight Tactics. TFT has a battle pass, a seasonal event pass, direct purchases through Riot Points, and direct purchases with Riot Points in their store. And there's all this crazy stuff going on with TFT in particular, like the only way to unlock custom characters with animations is to open loot boxes with very low odds. The loot boxes cost these little blue swirly points, whose name I keep forgetting, but you have to buy the swirly guys with Riot Points, but you have to buy the Riot Points with real money from some region. Then if you spend the blue guys, you can open loot boxes, and after a certain number of loot boxes, you get realm crystals. Realm crystals can only be spent on lower cost items in the rotating seasonal store, but after spending enough of all of this, you can earn a single medallion. After you earn 10 medallions, you can then automatically unlock some of this custom skins in the rotating store. The total price of this would be $500 to $600 depending on the skin, and I had to spend like an hour doing that math. Was it confusing to you? It was so confusing to me that I fully stopped spending money on this game despite thoroughly enjoying the game. So that's the problem in a nutshell. So let's talk about what the EU plans to do about it. The European Commission is requiring straightforward pricing for all microtransactions so that instead of seeing how many COD points a operator bundle would cost, they want companies to actually show the total monetary amount. So it would be like 1,400 COD points, and then over here it would be like $18.75. You could actually see what the real world price is of the things you're buying. The European Union believes that it's deliberately confusing for customers who are trying to figure out the real-world cost of a microtransaction to have these multiple currencies. And the quote that I pulled from this is, "The use of in-game virtual currencies psychologically disconnects the act of spending from real-world money for all players, which in turn leads to higher expenditures of real-world money." And here's an example of what the Commission wants it to look like. You can see they want to display the in-game currency and the real price side by side. They don't necessarily want the in-game currency to go away. You can still do that. It's just you have to let customers know what it's really costing. Beyond this, if the customer exchanges the points they bought for other points or other in-game currencies, that exchange rate also has to be shown with a local currency figure attached to it. That way you know what you're getting when you buy into the points, how much your cosmetics cost, and how much it costs to get a more premium currency if that's a path the game is pursuing. I think this is nothing short of fantastic, and I think this should have been the standard from the very beginning. Unfortunately, game publishers operated with essentially no regulations for decades, so of course the suits at corporate level wanted to build the most confusing system possible, because to them it's just a monetary extraction tool. They don't really care about customer sentiment as much as they care about shareholder returns. Next thing the European Union is going to require is for developers to avoid practices designed to hide the cost of digital content, which includes, they recommended them not having multiple currencies, which is a tad confusing because the previous section had a bit about a regulation for multiple currencies if they exist, but it was labeled as a practice to avoid. It was also requested that developers avoid requiring multiple exchanges of different currencies before making a purchase. So maybe you have one currency and a second currency and they buy different things, but you can't trade the two to pool the resources together and efficiently go buy another thing. This section more or less seems to exist to avoid companies making a workaround for the previous section. They don't want them to just add another layer of points to circumvent the law, and that actually just makes it worse for consumers. They're trying to get it down to a single digital currency system per game. There's a pretty small section of this press release talking about respect of consumers' right of withdrawal. And the TLDR here is that they want clear contractual language that is very easy for everyone to understand, i.e. no legalese, no giant terms and conditions contract. There has to be a summary page that is both honest and easy to understand. And the goal of this is to make sure that customers know what they're signing up for when they sign up for battle passes and subscription services. The European Union also wants to make it very easy to withdraw from these type of agreements. Sometimes it's hard to cancel, sometimes it's hard to get out. And canceling a subscription service should be just as easy as signing up for it. It should be a couple of clicks and you're done. Matter of fact, the European Commission talks about the customers having a unilateral right to withdrawal effective immediately when they don't want the services anymore. Right now, some companies operate a little bit more like American gym memberships, which if you ever had to cancel a gym membership, they bring up your contract, they try to negotiate a buyout for you. They tell you, well, you can't do this, it has to be this call center, you have to submit documentation in writing and come in person and argue with the manager, and just do anything to inconvenience you to the point where you're not going to cancel the membership. A lot of game companies operate like that too. And then finally, the biggest section of the document, which I'm actually going to skim over a little bit here as it's not directly relevant to my core audience, is a tremendous amount of consumer protections regarding vulnerable customers, particularly when it comes to children. A truly huge portion of these regulations are focused around protecting the most vulnerable customers, and the most vulnerable group of all is children, which is sad that game companies have decided to farm them for every penny that they're worth. But the European Commission doesn't want game companies to be allowed to directly market to children, at least not in certain ways that they've deemed to be exploitative. They also weirdly wrote that they don't want games to psychologically exploit children's mental weaknesses, which is very distressing that that was a problem to begin with, and a widespread problem that millions, hundreds of thousands, maybe people around the world, game developers and publishers sat down and said, you know what? I need to build my game to psychologically manipulate children. That's how I'm really going to make the most money here. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Should not have been a problem in the first place. They want consumer-friendly markets and spending practices put in place. Part of the document also talks about wanting greater parental controls for greater oversights on children's spending. And then finally, the European Commission requested that games be designed in such a way that the gameplay and monetary elements are separate. That means no pay to play, pay for energy, pay for turns. And they don't want the games designed in such a way that it's not fun or not playable if you're not spending money. I think all of this is great. I really hope that all of these regulations fully go through and get enforced. And I hope they do so in such a way that forces game developers to bring these positive changes to America as well. The only reason that that can happen really is that it's expensive to develop multiple secure financial transaction systems or different systems to display odds or loot boxes or whatever in a game. And it's a lot cheaper to develop one universal system for all regions, which is exactly what the Chinese developers decided to do when they were similarly regulated. I wish that America cared about the effect of these gaming systems on our children, the dark patterns, the marketing practices, the gamification of spending, the deliberate obfuscation of price, and designing these games to be addictive for kids like Fortnite. But I gotta be honest, Americans fundamentally do not care about that at all. Really just don't even understand it. The vast majority of people here don't give one flying fudge sickle what Facebook is doing to your children. So I'm going to be so cynical, I won't even outlay hope for the change of marketing or design practices being implemented here, or sales practices, but maybe one day. Guys, that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.